What is up, ladies and gentlemen? But most of all, you ladies out there, thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg. I was wrong. Let's talk about it. Split out! I'm man enough to say that I was wrong. I was wrong to say that Popeyes had a better chicken sandwich than Chick-fil-A. I was wrong to say that this thing between me and your mother was just a friendship. And I was wrong about this Brooklyn Nets team. Before this season started, I said that I would not be spending a lot of time talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets. They were two teams that the media covers ad nauseum. And both of those teams I thought were no good. And as the season started, I was proven so right. And then the Brooklyn Nets fired Steve Nash and became a completely different organization. They have turned this around more than I can explain, and we're going to break down what is going right for the Nets. What makes them so good? Why have they won 9 games in a row? Why, since they fired Steve Nash, did they have the best record in the entire NBA, being 19-7? Why is that the case with the Brooklyn Nets? We are going to break that down because that is fascinating. Tonight we watched the Brooklyn Nets take down the Cleveland Cavaliers. This was a battle for the 3 and 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. Now the Sixers are right there at 5, and then the Bucks are right there at 2. So from 2 to 5 is a dogfight between those 4 teams, and then the Celtics are only 2 games ahead. But tonight, the Brooklyn Nets got the better of the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland. We're going to break this game down because it was fascinating to watch. We saw elite level shot making from both Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Darius Garland on the other side for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now I want to talk about what makes these teams good and a couple of my concerns about both of these rosters. First, please take a second to like and subscribe to the channel. You see we are at 600 subscribers, and I was so pumped to get there. We're going to keep grinding, keep growing. Had to take a week off last week because I was throwing up and had the flu really bad, but we're back and we're grinding harder than ever. So we're going to talk about this game tonight. The Brooklyn Nets won 125-117. Kevin Durant had 32 points, 5 assists, 9 rebounds. Kyrie Irving had 32 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. So combined, they had 64 points, 10 assists, and 13 rebounds. That is unbelievable production from your top 2 guys. They also got a heck of a game from TJ Warren. TJ Warren is in his 10th game back from his injury, and he had missed a great amount of time. So as we start to see him get back in the flow and get healthy, that will be a key addition to this Brooklyn Nets roster. And they were without Seth Curry. On the other side, Darius Garland had 46 points and 8 assists. He was 14 of 20 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3, and was making everything, was going toe for toe with Kyrie Irving, and in fact had a little better game. But that battle between those two was electric to watch, and the shot making there was unbelievable. Donovan Mitchell had a little bit of a down game, and they didn't get a whole lot of production from a lot of other guys on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's my concern with them, which we will talk about in a second. But what I want to start with is this Brooklyn Nets team, because when they fired Steve Nash, they were a bottom 10 defense in the NBA. They were, what was it? They were 1-5? Like 2-5. They were no good, playing terrible basketball, and they decided to fire Steve Nash. And then it was widely reported that they were going to get Ime Udoka from the Boston Celtics. They ended up not doing that and settled on Jacques Vaughn, who was already on their coaching staff. And Jacques Vaughn had been a head coach in the NBA years ago. I believe he coached for the Magic, and I believe he had a really poor roster. And so he got fired there and is now getting an opportunity with a quality roster to show what they're capable of. One of the things that I am very adamant about, and that I've always said, is that defense equals coaching and effort. So coaching generally, obviously scheme is important, and X's and O's are important, and having the horses, the guys that can go out there and play quality defense is so important. But having a coach that inspires their guy to play hard, play with effort, is so much more important than any of that other stuff. Having guys that'll play hard for you, and the Nets are right now the number 11 defensive team in the league according to defensive rating. So And since they fired Steve Nash, they've been a top 10 defense. So you're talking about a team that went from a bottom 10 to a top 10 defense just by changing their coach. Now, other things play into that, and you got to look at the way that this roster is now being built. You're looking at the starting lineup, and you have Kevin Durant, who's a good defender. Royce O'Neal, who's a good defender. Nick Claxton, averaging 2.3 blocks a game, is a very good defender. Kyrie Irving plays hard, and he's not a defensive liability. And then Ben Simmons is a very good defender. So you have 4 of those 5 guys are very good defenders. So what they need to go out there is play with continuity, play hard, play with effort, and they're able to compete on the defensive end of the court. So they're number 5 in offense. Since they fired Steve Nash, they've been top 5 in offense, top 10 in defense. That is the recipe for winning basketball. That is the recipe for winning 9 games in a row. Now, beyond that, what makes the Nets so special is their shot making and the ability of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to score and score efficiently. There are a lot of guys in the NBA, and one of the guys that I'm heavily critical of is Trae Young. Because yes, his counting stats look good, but his percentages and his efficiency is so low that I think it takes away from a lot of, the things that are important to winning basketball. When you look at this Nets team, they're number 1 in the league in true shooting percentage. They're number 1 in the league in effective field goal percentage. They're number 1 in the league in field goal percentage. And then I believe they were 3rd in 3-point percentage. So across the board, they shoot efficiently and effectively. They take good shots that their guys can hit, and they rely on their main scorers. Now, when you look at the breakdown of this team, they only have 3 guys right now that are averaging over 10 points a game. Kevin Durant is averaging 30 a game. Kyrie Irving is averaging 25 a game. And then Claxton is averaging 10 a game. So you're really relying on your 2 main guys to be, to play elite on a night-to-night basis. But tonight with TJ Warren having 23, and as he starts to get back to his old self, he will be an elite. He'll be a very, very good third scorer, and then you'll get consistent production from Royce O'Neal. Nick Claxton's kind of playing that dunker 5 spot, hopefully can give you 8 to 10 points a night. You got Ben Simmons, hopefully he can get going a little more on the offensive end of the court. He only had 4 tonight, but he had 8 assists and 9 rebounds, so he's still productive and still playing defense at a high level, that you're still getting legitimate production from there. Excuse me if I say his name wrong, but Watanabe, their 3-point shooter, is number 1 in the league in 3-point percentage. He's an absolute sniper. So you have guys that are shooting really, really efficiently. So when you're playing against the Nets, you have to be on your A game. You can't waste possessions with turnovers. You can't waste possessions with bad shots, because on the other end, the Nets are going to take and make a ton of baskets. Now, where's the concern a little bit with and a little shout out to Kevin Durant. Tonight he passed Tim Duncan all time in scoring for 15. He became the 15th leading scorer all time, which is passing Tim Duncan, which is why I'm wearing my brand new Tim Duncan jersey. And he passed Kobe all time and made 3s, RIP Kobe. But highly impressive. We all know what Kevin Durant's about. But what concerns me a little bit about this Nets team, they are heavily reliant on those guys, which is sometimes scary when you talk about a playoff series when defenses like Boston can really get into you, play physical, can focus on taking away maybe Durant or Kyrie Irving. Those other guys got to be able to step up. So it's important that Warren develops. It's important that these guys become consistent and are able to provide if Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving have a bad night in a playoff series. And I think when you're looking at the Nets, their only concern is Boston. Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn are your 5 teams that in the Eastern Conference are all going to be insane. And Brooklyn's last loss was to Boston. And we saw them get swept in the first round last year. So what are you going to do that when you face those same adversities you did last year, what's going to work better for you this year? Is it the benefit of having TJ Warren, Ben Simmons back? Are those guys going to be able to make enough of a difference to take that from getting swept to, really competing in that series? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. But from what I've seen so far, I think they're capable. Now, their bottom, where were they? They were 29th in the NBA in rebounding. So they're a very poor rebounding team. And that's really important. When you're talking about defensive rating and playing good defense, defense only is important if you're able to grab the rebound and finish the possessions. If you're giving up those rebounds at the end of possessions, then all that work you did, all the way that you played together, becomes a little more meaningless. So it's important that if the Nets are going to take that step forward, they improve in that rebounding department. The playoffs, turnovers and rebounding become so important. That's winning basketball. Rebounding and defense are winning basketball things. And that's what we need to see from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, again, playing unbelievable basketball. They've been winning a lot of games. But I'm talking about the postseason. You're talking about the things that they do really well, some of my concerns. I do want to touch briefly on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I have talked about the Cavs a lot on this podcast here because I do watch a lot of Cleveland Cavaliers games. I live in Ohio, so they're on TV a lot. And they are very dependent on their two guards to provide a lot of their offense. Tonight, Garland was unbelievable. Like I said, he had 46. Mitchell had 15. But then Mobley had 12. Jarrett Allen had 10. Osman had 11. You're not getting a ton of production from the other guys on your roster. And when you need a big stop defensively, when you're talking about guarding the perimeter, I don't know who in a playoff series for the Cleveland Cavaliers is going to guard Kevin Durant, is going to guard Kyrie Irving, because Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, I wouldn't say are defensive liabilities, but they're not stoppers. So when you need a big stop, who's your go-to guy? Tonight they tried to have Mobley on Durant. That works okay. Mobley, still young, still learning how to defend, that kind of guy, which obviously it's nearly impossible. But who's your go-to stopper in a playoff series? And I think if they're able to improve that 3 spot there, that Lamar Stevens, Isaac Okoro spot, if they can find a way to make a slight improvement there, I think that this Cavs team could really take that next step into being a contender. And it doesn't even have to be anyone crazy. It just needs to be a guy who can come in, hit a corner 3, and play defense at a high level. And then when you're looking at the Nets, you need to improve that 5 spot. Are you able to, which Claxton's playing very well, but another guy that can come in and rebound when Claxton's not in, and Andre Drummond, someone like that. If you're talking about the Chicago Bulls, a team that might be looking at tanking, could you get Andre Drummond for cheap? That might be just what the doctor ordered for the Brooklyn Nets. But I was wrong about this Nets team. I'll admit it. I'll admit when I'm wrong. But they're playing fantastic basketball. They're playing fantastic basketball. They're a joy to watch because their shot making is unbelievable. We're going to watch a lot more. We will be talking about the Nets on this podcast because they're legit now. We're going to talk about them now. But that's all we got for you tonight. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll be back soon. Cyborg out.